Hello again, and welcome to this week's edition of SCLC TV. I'm your host, Maynard Eaton, and of course, our president and CEO, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. Dr. Steele, SCLC was right smack in the middle of the homegoing services for Reverend C.T. Vivian and Representative Congressman John Lewis. You were out there in the middle greeting them as they went by to their final farewell. But also, SCLC was in the middle, instrumental, not only in their homegoing, but in each of their lives. Is that correct?
Absolutely. SCLC has been the instrument or the vehicle that many of our great leaders have come through, particularly African Americans or black people, male and female. People actually got their start through SCLC. And it's a universal type of situation. But many times people forget that it was SCLC that was on the battlefield and the direct action. And we worked closely with other organizations. And at the time, SCLC and SNCC had different visions of their approach in terms of the civil rights movement. And I touched on it last week. That's why Congressman John Lewis was there in Selma, because he had lost the position of being chairman of the leadership of SNCC. And Jose Williams was the one who actually worked with Reverend James Orange and Albert Turner Sr. and all the others. Now, Albert Turner Sr., see, folks I like what somebody said today. Don't argue with me if you don't know the history. Albert Turner Sr. was leading voter registration in Marion, Alabama, and Jose was there with Miss Amelia Boynton, she's made her transition. She and Dr. Bernard Lafayette was on the front line 2 years, and Miss Amelia Boynton way before then. Dr. Lafayette was there 2 years before everybody else. And it was orchestrated for the Klansmen to kill him. So, I mean, you got to know the whole story.
So it wasn't just John Lewis's march, I think as many people tend to believe.
Well, John played a great role. And by the mere fact, not to belittle any of the role of anyone. Sure, it was a lot of people who actually planned and orchestrated this and lost their lives. And the fact being is that Congressman John Lewis had a platform and he used it. And it's not to be critical, because he elevated himself in telling the story about what happened on that bridge. And it's nothing like wisdom. What is wisdom? The experience that you go through to gain knowledge, leaving your comfort zone. He left SNCC in the element of losing a race to Stokely Carmichael in terms of the chairmanship. That's where Jose should be given credit for including, and I'm going to be redundant, but I'm going to say it again. That's what former President Bill Clinton said. Many times when you lose a race or you fail in what you're going after, you don't know it, but like the Chinese proverb that says there's a lot of opportunities behind a crisis and failures. John was blessed and fortunate, got involved, people believed in him, trusted him. He and Jose came together, and ultimately we got the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
Speaking of that, the Voting Rights Act, this week is the 55th anniversary of that act. Many people are celebrating and also lamenting the fact that some of it has been eradicated. You'll be speaking on this issue, will you not, in Alabama this week?
Well, I've been invited to go to Montgomery dealing with the expansion of the voter rights bill there in Alabama. We got to expand. Let me correct myself. This in Montgomery is dealing with the expansion of Medicaid, the Medicaid bill in Alabama, in terms of poor people being treated and having affordable health care. But the expansion of the 1965 Voter Rights Act is something that's inclusive in everything we do now. You know, former President Barack Obama said that we lost it, and he was president at the time when the U.S. Supreme Court gutted Section 4 and Section 5. So when you expand Medicaid for poor people, then you also dealing with the expansion of the Voter Rights Act. We must not forget that that's the catalyst, the expansion of the 1965 Voter Rights Act, Section 4 and Section 5, and now we're talking about expanding Medicaid for the affordable care of poor people. They are inseparable. They are inseparable.
Do you think there's a political momentum to re-energize the Voting Rights Act, Section 4 and Section 5? Is it the political will now to make that happen, you think? Or is it just political talk?
I think you can't rest on your laurels. Nothing is to be taken for granted. That's how we lost it. You know, not paying attention to it. You know, my book says it's easier to obtain than it is to maintain. And we went to sleep at the wheel because we didn't realize there are evil spirits out there. They don't want everybody to be comfortably secured and having affordable health care, having decent wages paid, and just fairness and the equability of the upward mobility of all people having access to capital. This is something that we must continuously work on, march for in nonviolent measures.
You've been talking about it for years now, even on this show almost every week. Do you think it's going to happen, or you think it's still very much an uphill battle?
Well, it has to happen. Not only are we going to restore Section 4 and Section 5 of the 1965 Voter Rights Act, not only are we going to restore that, we got to have reparation, which means from the root word repair. You just got to repair this thing. You know, I do a lot of research in dealing with the Homestead Act in terms of America. 20% of 20 to 30% of the people with all the wealth today got their start because this country say we want to give these people, which are Caucasian of the white race, a fair chance in life. But everybody, with the exception of folks who are domestic workers and who's working in the fields of agriculture, cannot qualify. Only people of the Caucasian race. And that was in right after the Civil War, 1862. You know, so you're talking about embeddedness of supreme racism within this country that must be eradicated.
I was talking to Greg Pallas, the investigative journalist, last week, and he mentioned that there's a conspiracy underfoot to undermine or underrepresent, to really destroy the mail-in voting concept. Your president, President Trump, has talked about it, thinks it's unfair, except in Florida. Is there a move afoot to conspire against voting while black, if you will?
Absolutely. But let me deal with mail-in voting and the mail-in process. It's better than the electronic vehicle that we use, the machinery to vote. With mail-in voting, it's a paper trail. Electronically, you can evaporate, eliminate,
delete it. You can delete it.
Delete a vote. No one would know wherever it has come from going or where it has gone. But with a mail-in or paper trail, you can always come up with the aspect, what happened to the paper ballot? The paper ballot has always been a favorite to most people because they are trusted in the paper. It's trustworthy rather than electronically. So we can be all technologically sound and innovative as we want to be, but it's not always the advancement of fairness for those who are oppressed and those who are fighting for freedom and justice with the vote and on everyday experiences.
Do you think our voting apparatus is in jeopardy? We'll have an early test of it on September 29th when there's a special election to fill John Lewis's seat, right there in 5th District where SCLC headquarters are. Do you have any concerns about the outcome of that race? Do you have a favorite in that race?
I have a favorite in the policy, in the mindset of people who have the embeddedness of representing poor folks and folks who have been left out of the process, poor people of all background and ethnicity, and those who've been, in particular, because we are second-class citizens. And someone mentioned to you, Maynard, when I said when we were first-class citizens in 1965, but now we're second-class citizens since Section 4 and Section 5 been gutted. The question was, someone asked you, when have we ever been first class? So the fact being is that, no, I can't endorse the individual because of my position, but I can endorse the policy and the legislation mindset of people in terms of reparation, in terms of the expansion of Medicaid, in terms of health care, affordable health care for all American citizens, decent jobs, and in particular to the freedom and justice and equality for all God's children, regardless of the pigmentation of the skin.
Finally, COVID-19 is still with us. It's still killing us, still controversial. What are your thoughts of where it is now? Would you want your grandkids going to school in the classroom?
Well, no, I wouldn't. My wife and I were just going over the procedure today that she got from our daughter. We have three, actually four now, grands that we're very concerned about. And in this particular case, with my wife being a retired educator, we're not, I'll say we, but we the grandparents, my daughter and our son-in-law not going to send our granddaughter that's 4 years of age. They're not going to send her to kindergarten due to the fact of the endangerment or the potential endangerment of that situation. So my wife, who's a retired educator, is going to teach her for the next year. And with the two boys, oh yeah, she's going back being a teacher. And when it was explained to my 4-year-old granddaughter that grandmama gonna teach her, she said, "Grandmama can't teach me because she's grandma." She said, "She can't be a teacher because she's my grandma." But anyway, those type of precautionary measures, I know most families are concerned about. We feel comfortable in our son-in-law and our daughter telling us about the two boys that the school they're going to is really very instrumental in being prioritizing the safetyness of all of those kids. And then you talk about 8 years of age, 13 years of age, and the school that they're attending, same school, they're very secure in their thinking that the procedures and the CDC approaches a mandate in terms of the cleanliness and the protection, even in the cafeteria. They're going to have different protection of equipment to use. They will never go into the classroom or the cafeteria without any protection. That's going to be provided by the school. Now, the church can say amen on that. And I was really impressed when my wife told me that. So hopefully all institutions of academic learning and centers will take that type of approach.
Well, as you well know, the Clark Atlanta University and all the AU centers shut down the first semester. But are you concerned that this is going to have a lasting impact on families, poor families who can't go to work because their kids are at home? I mean, it's a dilemma here for many working class families, is it not?
It is. And I'm concerned about that. That's why we're working with Jarvis Christian College in terms of virtual learning. I call it distant learning. This innovative approach is so stimulating, motivating to me. Tele-ed, that's what some academia people call it, tele-ed, as well as distant learning and virtual learning. Regardless, it's the same. And we have the professors in the Department of Education and Community Service with the anticipation and the motivation that they're going to be partnering with SCLC, and we're going to have the tutorial part made available. Well, these schools initially starting up can take up to 100 students, and as we get into it, we hopefully will be in the vicinity or capacity where we can take anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000. But we're getting started in the next 2-3 weeks. We're getting started with the capacity of tutoring 100 students.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to our president, the SCLC president and CEO, Dr. Charles Steele Jr., who's about to bow out of the phone, out of the frame right there. Anyway, Dr. Steele, thanks you again. We'll see you next week, and God bless you. Take care.
Thank you.